manufacturing was a bright spot in today's jobs report. All the analyst notes I've been looking through point that out, yet it's still lower than what you had been looking for. How much of what we've seen, the slowdown, could be due to things like weather?
I think certainly seasonal adjustments are a large part of what we saw. Keep in mind the larger trend has been overall positive. We've seen about 160,000 jobs created in manufacturing over just the last 5 months. But definitely, I think the April numbers are disappointing. It certainly reflects, I think, a slowdown that we've seen in manufacturing and in other areas in March and April. And definitely, it's discouraging, but it's also, I think, looking forward, it also hopefully is something that will improve.
Right, and that's what I want to do right now, look forward, because manufacturing makes up about 12% of the U.S. economy, yet it has been the driver of growth since the recession. Is this slowdown that we are now seeing a leading indicator for the overall economy?
Well, I think, looking forward, yesterday we had productivity numbers that showed 5.9% increase in productivity overall. A lot of that was output, especially in the durable goods sector. I think, moving forward, you're going to continue to see job growth in manufacturing, especially as manufacturers continue to expand. Definitely manufacturers are worried about Europe. They're worried about the business environment. They're worried about higher energy and raw material prices. But I think looking forward, manufacturers are relatively optimistic, and I think that will bode well for employment.
What about China? You mentioned Europe, certainly, but we saw in a lot of the U.S.-based manufacturers that may do a lot of their production overseas that China was a concern for them. It accounted for slower sales than they might have liked to see.
That's true. I mean, definitely the slowdown, obviously the recession in Europe and the slowdown in China are going to affect exports. I think one of the more encouraging signs from the ISM study that came out earlier in the week was that new growth in exports was picking up. I think that obviously is a good sign. And I think when you look at growth, not only for amongst manufacturers in terms of output, but also in terms of employment, exports are going to be a large part of that. Now, having said that, we definitely have to touch on the fact that many manufacturers right now are struggling with the skills gap. They're looking for workers, even in an 8.1% environment for unemployment. Many of them continue to struggle to find the workers that they need for their facilities.
Many of them struggle to find workers. The Fed has called the pickup in costs temporary. Talk about the costs for the workers. We can tell that the average weekly earnings for manufacturer workers actually rose.
Well, I think, definitely you're seeing a little bit of an uptick in terms of overall wage increases. I'm estimating that wages will increase around 2% this year. That certainly is a modest increase. I think that the biggest concern that manufacturers are having right now in terms of cost has been the rising energy and raw material prices. This is definitely something that many of them tell me when I talk to them. They also are quite frankly worried about the tax and regulatory environment. And as we move into next year, they're concerned about the fiscal cliff that we're all facing. And so there continues to be a number of anxieties out there. In terms of cost pressures, though, I think wage pressures are going to be relatively modest, and I think that the energy and raw material prices are more pressing.